a busy day trying to keep track of all the names the Bears will be interviewing for their head coach vacancy. But there are some surprise names here that are popping up today. Not a lot of Drew Petzing talk, Anthony Weaver, Mike Kafka. Those names were not circulating really until today, guys. What surprises you most about some of the names popping up?
I think just how many there are. This isn't a short list. This is a category. And I think when you look at how many names there are, it's up to 11 or 12 names that have been linked to this job. It's the Bears. And I want to be honest here. I think that the skepticism has been earned. The cynicism is appropriate. So when it is the Bears, I don't trust that they know what they're doing and looking for the next head coach. I'll get past that if they hire a guy like Brian Flores, Mike Vrabel, or Ben Johnson. Yeah. But this list is so long, I don't know if it feels as strategic as it does desperate to me. They can prove me wrong, but I think I did not expect this many names this early in the process.
It feels like there's a little bit of a lack of vision, right? Like, what are you looking for? Are you looking for experience? Are you looking for an offensive play caller? Are you looking for both? Like, we don't know some of these names, and some of them don't even really have great credentials coming out of their seasons. Mike Kafka, what did his offense do this year?
I love Mike Kafka. We were drafted together in Philly.
Okay,
but,
that was my way of prompting you to tell us about him.
You ran the 29th best offense in yards, the 30th best offense in points. You haven't had success, so why is this guy an option? You think he's an intelligent guy in a tough situation, but I don't think that makes sense even for an interview at this point.
Well, it's good for his career to get interviewed. I like Mike Kafka. He was at Northwestern. He's a local guy who made good, and I love the idea of him being an NFL head coach one day. I don't think he's the solution to the Bears' problem. I think the Bears need somebody to come in here with experience, with gravitas, with presence, who's going to look at this job and think it's not too big for him, and who's going to walk in the room and command respect immediately. That's not a guy who's never been a head coach before. That's not a guy you have to Google.
We're going to have all week to get into it, but there was a lot of sound coming out of the Bears locker room today as they cleaned out their lockers. A lot of players calling for discipline, calling for accountability. There's something lacking in that locker room, and some of these inexperienced head coaches, I just think there's a lot of uncertainty when it comes to what culture are they going to, what's their tone, what's going to be their mentality.
I want to give you guys a couple of my dark horse candidates because I think these are guys that have done it before. The first one is Mike McCarthy. Say what you will about him. This guy's got a ton of experience. He was a quarterback coach. He was an offensive coordinator. He calls plays. He has developed players before. He's had a lot of success. Obviously not in the playoffs, but I think he has a very high floor, and I wouldn't be upset if he was the Bears head coach. And then Todd Monken. Todd Monken was the head coach at Southern Miss. Obviously not a huge program, but he has done it before. And then the last 2 years, he's been the offensive coordinator for the Baltimore Ravens. MVP caliber quarterback in Lamar Jackson. He's had the most success he's had in his career.
That's a good one, Clayton. I think he has respect around the league as a play caller, and he's working for the Ravens organization that is respected. But as a player, if you're a Bear, don't you want, Ruthie alluded to it, they want to be led. Yeah. They want to be coached. They want to be coach hard the way Thomas Brown coached him for the final 5 weeks of the year. If you get Mike McCarthy, that's not his rep, Clay. So does his experience winning in the regular season outweigh that? Because if you're a player sitting there the first time Mike McCarthy gets in front of the room, what's he going to say that persuades you to thinking he's the right guy?
He's going to just come out there and he's going to wear the Super Bowl ring that he has, and he's going to say, I have done it before. He's won a Super Bowl as an assistant. And he's a guy that's been around Brett Favre. He's been around Aaron Rodgers, Dak Prescott. He has built a ton of quarterbacks. I know he's not the sexy pick. I know he's not a pick on a lot of guys' minds, but I think they could do a lot worse than Mike McCarthy.
Before we move on, guys, I want to just point out there are some names that we had been talking about on our show and all across these airwaves in this city that haven't really been confirmed that the Bears are interested in yet. Pete Carroll, we know, has interest in the Bears, still undetermined whether or not the Bears will interview him. Cliff Kingsbury, nowhere to be found. Liam Cohen, nowhere to be found. Joe Brady, nowhere to be found. The Bears did not put in slips for those guys, as we know in this moment.
To me, the best news today of all the little headlines and Twitter updates that came throughout the day, that the Bears did get permission for Brian Flores, because that tells me they're serious about something at Haugh. And Brian Flores would change the culture. He would walk in,
yes, he would.
And there would be no ambiguity about who's in charge from day one. And to me, even with the lawsuits, even with the baggage, the Bears requesting permission to interview Brian Flores is a good sign.
With Mike Vrabel, I mean, we could basically write him to the Patriots right now. The guy won 3 Super Bowls with the Patriots.
Get it.
A guy that is a leader of men.
You still got to try.
You still got to try. Love Vrabel, But Vance Joseph, I know he didn't have a ton of success his first round in Denver, but this guy, his defense has been stellar. He is a guy that's done it before.
Okay.
He's a leader, and I think he's deserved a second opportunity.
That raised my eyebrow this morning when it came across.
Arthur Smith, also an eyebrow raised today, someone that we hadn't spoken about, someone who was a head coach and it didn't go well in Atlanta.
Did not go well in Atlanta. He's done a nice job with Russell Wilson in Pittsburgh. He is known as an offensive guy. I would worry about the culture with Arthur Smith.
Maybe he'll bring Justin Fields back with him. Just a thought. Just kidding.
You just
I'm not
started
trying
out,
to stir
Ruthie
the
started
pot.